Carrie Geren Scoggins, Political Newsletter, Bible Prophecy Times Edition, End Times Prophecy News Update.
Welcome back to End Times Prophecy News Update. In the news recently, we have a story from Houston, Texas, where their mayor has illegally subpoenaed 5 churches' sermons concerning homosexuality. And in the backlash of the protests, where she's violating separation of church and state, and the people are speaking out, they've changed the definition from sermon to now refer to it as a speech, as if that would change the law.
Federal laws, such as our legal right to debate the issues, as upheld by the federal Supreme Court when overturning the hate speech laws, as well as our First Amendment rights, trump the state-level anti-discrimination laws. Our legal right to debate the issues, citing homosexuality, Islam, abortion, and other issues, was upheld by the federal Supreme Court. It makes no difference if it's a sermon or a speech. We have no political or religious censorship. Our federal Supreme Court has already ruled in favor of freedom of religious speech and the legal right to debate the issues from a biblical viewpoint.
The First Amendment, our legal right to debate the issues. The federal Supreme Court has already heard cases such as these. They overturned the hate speech laws, citing our legal rights to debate the issue. Specifically, that of Romans chapter 1, biblical references to homosexuality, and that of debating Islam. They went on to say in the federal Supreme Court hearings that it's the citizen's legal right to debate any topic from any viewpoint, including that of the Christians, and their legal right to debate homosexuality from a biblical viewpoint. Their interpretation of the Bible, a non-censored, non-state revised King James Bible, Romans chapter 1, and the Jewish laws as given by God to Moses. Therefore, they cannot censor the Torah nor the Bible. The mayor has overstepped her boundaries of law, illegally hoping to bring in state-approved sermons, Bible censorship and religious discrimination, discriminating against the religious tenet of Romans chapter 1, making their anti-discrimination laws very discriminatory. What an oxymoron, to have the very law against discrimination used in turn to discriminate against the Christian civil rights and their legal right to debate homosexuality, their legal right of debating any issue from any viewpoint as their First Amendment rights.
The American Civil Liberties Union has also stepped up to the plate to side for the Christian churches in this debate.
Again, her moves violate separation of church and state in keeping the state out of the church, stopping Bible censorship, and preventing state-approved sermons, state-approved Bibles, and moreover, the first religious prisoners in American history to those that refused to compromise the King James Bible and the biblical view on homosexuality as being that of sin and of a reprobate mind, Romans chapter 1.
Our United States Constitution was laid out to prevent religious prisoners, that which we saw in the Russian gulags, concentration camps where millions were killed over political and religious beliefs, as well as that we saw from Nazi Germany, where 6 million Christian resistants were killed and then 7 million Jews. Laws were passed in Nazi Germany bringing in Bible censorship and censorship of the Torah on scriptures concerning homosexuality. These were called Good Speak laws, closely akin to the United Nations and the EU's hate speech laws. The United States overturned their hate speech laws. due to it being religious censorship. By fighting attempts at religious censorship, it ends the chances of the United States becoming a country where Christians are persecuted and incarcerated for their religious beliefs, housed in concentration camps like FEMA camps, religious prisoners. This is what the legislation the Democrats are trying to pass, bringing in Bible censorship on homosexuality, would create, just as it did in Nazi Germany. This is the reason our First Amendment and Constitution are so important.
Remembering the Federal Supreme Court ruling, our legal right to adhere to biblical core values. Where in the Federal Supreme Court they cited specifically the legal right to adhere to core values such as Romans chapter 1 in the King James Bible, unrevised, uncensored, and not a state-approved version, while we're on the job, off the job, in our own private businesses, or in the hiring of employees. The legal right to adhere to biblical core values, a Federal Supreme Court ruling that every Christian church should be familiar with, used to protect their civil rights and their First Amendment rights. Going back to the 1964 Civil Rights Act that gave Christians and the Christian church protected class status under religion, again, protected on the job, off the job, in their own private businesses, in the hiring of employees, and of course in our own churches, our own ministries and religious groups. This has come under fire illegally by calling the Christian religious tenet of faith, that of Romans chapter 1, hate speech, or referring to groups adhering to this biblical core value as a hate group. The Southern Poverty Law Center has set themselves up for a lawsuit to be sued by the American Family Association, where they have overstepped the boundaries of law in falsely accusing the American Family Association of being a, quote, hate group for not accepting the gay and lesbian community by simply saying their activity is sin. Adhering to biblical core values, the American Family Association is full within their legal right to sue Southern Poverty Law Center, and now those that had followed suit, listening to their propaganda, such as the military. Religious groups and Christian ministries cannot be deemed a hate group. They have the legal right to, quote, adhere to biblical core values. Remembering, the Federal Supreme Court overturned the hate speech laws, supporting our legal right to debate the issues. Citing specifically our legal right to debate Islam, homosexuality, abortion, or any issue of the day, the legal right of political debate, and the legal right to oppose the state's viewpoints. 1964 Civil Rights Act. Christians have protected class status under the law. The military, nor any federal office or law enforcement agency, nor any government entity cannot discriminate against Christians on their religious viewpoints concerning homosexuality and them calling it sin. It's their civil rights. And concerning state-level anti-discrimination laws, of course the Federal Supreme Court ruling trumps this because federal trumps state. The federal law is that Christians have the legal right to adhere to biblical core values in their churches, ministries, on their job, even in the secular community, off their job, in their own private businesses, and in the hiring of employees. Again, their legal right to debate the issue, as upheld when the hate speech laws were overturned in the Federal Supreme Court. The Houston mayor needs to become more familiar with the laws of the United States government, as well as the failed legislation called anti-discrimination laws, which in and of itself discriminates. It's supposed to be freedom straight across the board, and that's freedoms for Christians as well. Don't let them bring in state-approved sermons, state-approved Bibles, or religious discrimination, discriminating against Christians' legal right to adhere to biblical core values, such as Romans chapter 1, and our legal right to debate the issues, whether it be homosexuality or Islam or abortion or any other issue of the day. Our legal right to oppose the state's viewpoint, our legal right of protest, our legal right of debate, our First Amendment rights. Christians need to write their legislators and remind them of Christian civil rights, and our legal right to adhere to biblical core values, and the legal right to debate the issues, our First Amendment rights.
This has been another edition of Carrie Geren Scoggins Political Newsletter Bible Prophecy Times Edition, End Times Prophecy News Update.